first, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Mandy Brooks. I am a regional support facilitator working in Region 3, which is Southwest Ohio, working closely with SSAs and QIDPs on the Ohio ISP. And then in addition, I'd like to introduce those that are with me today. We have Abby Shelton-Williams. She is with IT training. Hi, Abby. And Lisa Allersmeyer. She's a regional coordination manager. She has the west side of the state. Hi, Lisa. So thank you all again for joining us. We're happy you're here. Before we get started, just want to go over some housekeeping items of teams. So we will provide an opportunity for questions and answers after the presentation. So feel free, if you're thinking of a question, feel free to ask at any time. We are happy to answer those. We will have allotted time at the end of the presentation. You can either put those questions in the chat box, which you can find if you're using the app itself. It's to the left of the leave button. And Abby then also put a chat in the chat box, so that might be easier to find. Thank you, Abby. And if you're using the internet browser, it's actually at the bottom of the screen. You'll find the chat. We will have microphones on mute except for the person that is speaking. So if you do, maybe if someone jumps on and it's not muted, we will go ahead and mute. And then, if you want to say something, feel free to raise your hand. And again, just that this recording or this presentation will be recorded. So we are here to talk about the Ohio ISP overview, specifically for waiver providers. So we have some objectives for today. Our first objective is we'd like to enhance your understanding of why the Ohio ISP was developed and how it was specifically designed to help those people we support. We'd like to review the steps to access the online system with you and really recognize how the service plan will be developed and will look using the Ohio ISP. We did have a webinar in May, and if you missed that webinar, that's no problem. You can access it by going to our Ohio ISP webpage. It's listed under onboarding for waiver providers. And so we recognize that people really are in varying spots with using the Ohio ISP. And so we're trying to meet people where they're at and start with some basic understanding before we continue down the path. So those are our objectives for today. We first want to start off with how we got here. So prior to or when the idea of a standardized plan for Ohio was introduced, we wanted to hear from the field what their fears and what their hopes of were for a single service plan. And so town halls were conducted throughout the state to really understand hopes and fears of people regarding a single service plan. And so this slide shows a word cloud of people's hopes. And when you use a word cloud, the larger words represent those words that had more frequent responses, those words that were more frequently used. And so you see here some common hopes were person-centered. People wanted it to be simple, consistent, easier for providers, easier to understand, user-friendly, that training was necessary and that it met rule requirements, that it was less repetitive and easier for individuals to use. And then the next slide shows the opposite. It shows the fears that people expressed at these town hall meetings. And so it's interesting that a lot of the fears were the exact opposite of what people's hopes were. So you see that people feared that it wouldn't be person-centered, that it would be long, or that there would be frequent changes made, that there would be IT issues, time-consuming, lack of information, and that it wouldn't be applicable to all individuals. One of the biggest hopes for the ISP was to be person-centered. And that's one of the biggest fears that people had, that it wouldn't be person-centered. And in addition, it was really clear that people wanted it to be simple, that direct support professionals needed to understand what was written, needed to understand what they needed to do. And so the work group that created the Ohio ISP used all of this information to develop the Ohio ISP, really used it and focused on this information as they went through the course of developing the Ohio ISP. It was their philosophy as they developed this. So we would like to show a brief video, an introduction to the Ohio ISP, then we will proceed. So I will play that. If you give me a thumbs up that you can hear it, and if not, give me a big old thumbs down.
The Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, or DODD, has made a commitment to improve the quality of life for Ohioans with developmental disabilities and their families. To do this, DODD has worked with partners to develop a way to keep the people we serve at the center of the planning process, a way to make sure collaboration between all team members is smooth and simple, and a way to make sure planning services and supports is consistent throughout Ohio. The Ohio Individual Service Plan. One assessment and service plan for all Ohioans who receive developmental disability services.
All right, so that gave us a brief introduction of the Ohio ISP, one plan to serve all across the state, okay? So again, it's person-centered focused. And we recognize that all people have the right to live, love, work, play, and pursue their life aspirations. And that's the philosophy of Ohio ISP. It places that person at the center of the planning process. And the Ohio ISP was built on charting the life course. And so the person leads that planning process by making the choices, setting goals that they want, and deciding how they want to live their life. It's the team member closest to the person, or if the person is able, they lead the planning process. And we've had a lot of focus on communication, that it's really about communicating with the team, communicating with the person first, and those that support the person, to understand what the person's goals are, what their life aspirations are, what support they want and what they don't want, and what their fear and hopes themselves are for their life. The assessment has questions, multiple questions, and any information that someone wants to share can be included in it. It's across the board. It's used for everyone, but really the conversation with the person, the conversation with the team, those that support the person, drives what information goes into that assessment. And so we talked about the team, and that the team, everyone on the team is essential. Every member of the team is equally important, and the team consists of the person receiving the services. They're at the center of the team, their family, their friends, and other professionals who support them. And the person truly drives, they guide the team in the direction that they want to go with their life. And it's really about exploring and supporting the person, fulfilling the person's vision of a good life, and having those meaningful conversations, exploring areas of a person's life that they want to expand on and setting goals, and areas where, you know, the Ohio ISP actually considers the person's age. And so age appropriate questions are either automatically populated or they're not. And so it's really going where that conversation leads with the person. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Lisa, and she's going to talk about this.
Thanks, Mandy. So we're going to watch a video here in just a second, but just a little background. So everybody can access the Ohio ISP in one place, which we think is going to be very helpful for everybody. And some people on this webinar may have actually already seen this video earlier in the year, but we want to go ahead and share it again because this video calls attention to how the Ohio ISP will work, who can access it, and the resources that are available to everybody on this webinar. So when you hear it, when you hear this video, it'll talk about resources from early 2022 because, as I said, the video was produced earlier in the year. However, we want you to know that all those resources are available on the web page.
Envision a planning process that is genuinely driven by the person receiving services and focused on the best possible life for that person. Think about a practice where there is an emphasis on and an expectation for a true team process where all team members feel connected and empowered. Picture a single assessment and plan developed by people from all aspects of the field, people receiving services, family members, waiver providers, ICF providers, county board professionals, DODD personnel, and others. Change brings challenges, but also excitement and new opportunities. The Ohio Individual Service Plan, also called the Ohio ISP, is designed to transform and simplify the planning process, and it is on the way. Though timelines may vary, everyone is encouraged to start discussing the transition and implementation process to the Ohio ISP. Some county boards of developmental disabilities and ICF providers have already started using it. In the end, Ohio ISP Online will be the only system in Ohio that will have all the needed information for service planning, service implementation, and compliance. Free access to this system will be available for all providers, direct support professionals, county boards, people who receive services, families, guardians, and other team members. Several resources for providers and DSPs, including the complete Ohio ISP template, are available now at dodd.ohio.gov/OhioISP, and additional learning opportunities are being developed. Plus, DODD has dedicated regional teams to support providers with the transition to the Ohio ISP or any other technical assistance they may need. Be on the lookout for more resources for providers and DSPs starting in 2022. Stay tuned and subscribe to DODD's social media channels and newsletters for more updates and resources related to the Ohio ISP. Any questions or suggestions can be submitted to OhioISP at dodd.ohio.gov.
Thanks for sharing that video, Mandy. And just to give a little bit of background on that, the script for that video was developed by several work group members who are providers themselves in a way to begin to get the message out to the larger community about resources at that point in time that were coming. And then what I would say is they are available. They are available on the website, and we'll make sure that you have all of those links to the website dropped in the chat for you to get to. Okay, so we're going to talk about one plan for all Ohioans, okay? And so as we mentioned in the video, and as we've said several times, right, there's one plan for people with developmental disabilities or lived experiences across the state of Ohio. The Ohio ISP format, it's the same no matter where you go in Ohio. So people moving throughout the state will have the same plan format and experience the same planning process, no matter what county they live in or what provider or providers they choose, while maintaining the individuality of the plan and the content for each person. An online system is available to teams throughout Ohio to access the assessment and plan for the people that they support. So the system is available. We'll talk about how to get in the system a little bit later and what you need to be doing, working with your local county boards to be able to see them. But we want you to know the system is available. And when a person moves to a new county or facility, as I said before, the Ohio ISP goes with them. The SSA or the QIDP can continue using the person's established plan, and the team will not have to start from scratch with the Ohio ISP process. So Mandy, would you like to take it over from here, or would you like me to continue on?
Yeah, no, I can certainly take over. So we want to talk about the benefits of the Ohio ISP for waiver providers, for you that are on the call. And one of those benefits is that ISPs can be quickly signed in person or electronically. So if the county you're working with is using DODD's online system, you have the ability to sign that plan electronically, but you don't have to. So if you want to use the paper version to sign, they certainly can do that, and SSAs can then just upload it to the system on your behalf. And the information then can be easily accessed. So even if you're working with a county that's not using DODD's system, say they're using a third-party vendor is what it's called, that's usually Britco or Primary Solutions, you can still use your login information through DODD to easily access that plan through DODD's free Salesforce, free IT solution. We refer to it as Salesforce. So you still have that ability no matter what they're using, okay? And so it really is to help streamline for providers, especially those providers working in multiple counties, to easily access that information. And you'll receive immediate notification of any changes made to an ISP. As soon as that ISP is submitted, you'll be notified that that change has occurred. And we recognize the importance of the direct support professionals getting this information and knowing, and also being able to access that information. It would be helpful so that direct support professionals can become familiar with the assessment and plan and see what it looks like in general. And again, there's no waiting for updates to be made. It's immediate notifications as soon as changes are made. And then finally, one big pro for the Ohio ISP solution is that it provides service delivery documentation sheets. So when plans are completed, service documentation sheets are generated based on what the services and what providers have been authorized in the plan. And providers can log in to the system just as they log in to see the ISP, they can see the documentation that's generated. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Abby, and she can talk about accessing the system.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mandy. So obviously the biggest question that we tend to get is, as a provider, how do we get access to this system? Regardless of whether you go directly through our solution or if you go through a third-party vendor, everyone needs to log into our system at least once. That's not to railroad you into using our system. It's simply that our system is what we call the system of truth. So it houses all of the actual data that then talks to other systems. So until you talk to our system, you don't exist in that sort of digital realm. So we need you to log in there first. So to do that, the first question you need to ask yourself is if you have an OHID. So if you do, go to DODD.ohio.gov, log in, and then you're going to go to your applications and you're going to click on the Ohio ISP tile there. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. If you don't have an OHID, you're going to go to DODD.ohio.gov, click like you're going to log in, and then click new or create account. And you can create an account from there. You'll get a confirmation email once you've been added to the system, and then you can log in. If you think you have one, but you don't remember if you have an OHID, you can always email us at ITS call center or actually you could email us at ohioisp@dodd.ohio.gov or send in a ticket to the ITS call center and we can help you there. So the next thing is, let's say you log in and you don't see the tile. So there's a couple things that might be going on there. One, you might not have the correct permissions. So if you are a DOO and all of your information is updated in PSM, then you should be good to go. If you are a delegator, you need to be tapped by your DOO as a delegator. So again, check PSM, make sure that's updated. And then for other staff, you're going to need the read-only permission. And so we have more information on our website about all of these processes, what you need to do, what you need to add. But this is sort of a quick look at those roles. So again, the DOO should already be designated through PSM, and the DOO has sort of superpowers. You get to do everything. You can view records, you can sign plans, upload documents and photos, use chatter. You can basically claim employees underneath your facility. You can assign individuals. So next is the business. And so that's next is the agency delegator. So you basically have all the same things as the DOO, all those same permissions. And then finally, we have DSPs, nurses, and other staff. You're going to want the Salesforce read-only role. So that means you can look at any plans. You can sign plans if you've been added as a signatory, and you can upload documents and photos. You can view any of the files that have been added there, and you can use, it's cut off here, but you can use the chatter feature, and we'll talk about that in a second. So the next video, this video shows you what your experience will be like in Ohio ISP, and just sort of walks you through what that is like.
Welcome to Ohio ISP. This video will include the provider dashboard, walkthrough and user experience, as well as the Walk Me help. After logging in, you'll see the provider's dashboard. The navigation bar at the top takes you to the sections of Ohio ISP you will use the most. The tiles on the front page are specific to your user experience. Click the Home icon at any time to return to the dashboard. The Details tab displays the individual's demographic information, case management status, and other useful fields. The Team tab includes information about the individual's support system, team members, their roles, and any facilities the individual is a part of. The Plans tab includes the most recently viewed plans as well as all prior plans drafted for the individual. My Documents includes files owned and uploaded by you and documents shared with you by a team member. The Help tab includes links to Help Desk, the DODD main page, and rules in effect. The Global Search bar will help you find specific records. It searches across record types to help you find what you need, whether it's user, contact, or account. If you need help in OhioISP, click the Need Help launcher at the bottom corner. The Help section includes documents for setting up OHID accounts, creating a Gmail account, submitting help tickets, and more from the General Knowledge tab. Walkthroughs can be found on the Help tab. Click a walkthrough to follow a process step by step. Click on the X on any open walkthrough to exit the Smart Walkthrough. You can search for materials using the search bar. The Videos tab includes demos and useful walkthrough videos.
All right, thank you. On the next slide here, we're going to look at the process of reviewing an ISP. That starts with you being notified that an ISP is ready for you to review, and then kind of goes through those next steps and what you'll be looking at.
Welcome to OhioISP. Today we will cover how to review an ISP in the OhioISP system as a provider. OhioISP includes information on upcoming and draft ISPs in the Plans tab. The Plans tab will include all draft and submitted ISPs for the individual, including the ISP name, their status, and created date. Click on the ISP name to review the plan. Once a plan has been submitted for signatures, all applicable team members will receive an email notification to review and sign the plan. Clicking on the first link in the email will open your plan in OhioISP. The Files section contains a PDF version of the ISP that can be printed for use or signed and uploaded to provide an in-person signature. You can review the sections of your plan by clicking the tabs along the top. A provider will typically have read-only access in OhioISP. Clicking the hyperlinks in each section will provide more information on assessment answers, services and supports, and potential outcomes for the ISP. Anywhere you see the plan name, you can click to get back to the plan. The notification email will also include a link to review recent changes that have been made to the ISP. This will include where the change to the ISP was made, who made the change, and when the change was made.
All right, thank you. And in the next video, this is going to show you the signing process for the DODD solution. If you're using a third-party vendor, that process will be different, and we can't really speak to what that process is. But this, at least if you're using ours, this is what it will look like. And like Mandy was saying before, if you need to do a paper version is still always available. The SSA or Q that you're working with will be able to scan that paper version in and add it to our system digitally.
Welcome to OhioISP. This video will include how to sign an ISP digitally as a provider. A provider will be emailed a notification to review and sign the plan. Let's start by logging into OhioISP. Log in using your OHID. If you don't have an OHID, you can create one by clicking Create Account. If you forgot your OHID, click Forgot OHID to be sent a reminder. If you need to reset your password, click Forgot Password. To sign a plan digitally, you will receive an email notification asking you to review and sign the plan. The email notification will include 3 links. The first link is to review the plan in OhioISP. The second link is to sign and approve the plan. The third link will only show the changes to the plan since last signature. Once you've logged in, the team signature page will show. By checking the boxes below, you agree that the plan reflects actions, services, and supports as requested by the person listed. Complete the check marks under Participation and Informed Consent. For the last 3 questions, answer yes, no, or not applicable. Once you have the green check mark, you're clear to sign the plan. If you do not agree with sections of the plan, enter your reason for disagreement in the box below. If you click Submit, after entering a reason for disagreement, a dissenting opinion will be added to the ISP. But we'll go ahead and sign the plan. Check the box above to digitally sign the plan. Today's date will pre-populate, and click Submit to complete the process.
All right, thanks. And the last one here, this is Chatter. Chatter is like social media. It's like a feed that exists for that ISP, so for that specific plan. And it's a nice way for people to be able to sort of communicate back and forth about that plan in a way that's quick and that is always tied to that plan. Only people who are team members and have access to that plan can read it. So external people will not be able to read what's written in that chatter.
Chatter is a tool similar to social media, for example, Facebook or Twitter. You can find Chatter on your dashboard and the top blue navigation bar, as well as on an individual's ISP. Depending on where you access it, though, the use will be slightly different. Let's first look at Chatter on your dashboard in the blue navigation bar. On the dashboard, you can post an item to your Chatter feed in the top right corner and view the feed down the right side of your screen. This also allows you to sort the posts and search for specific words or items. If I click on Chatter in the blue navigation bar, I can post and view my Chatter feed here as well. In fact, not only can I post an update, I can also pose a question or create a custom poll. From this location, any post I make will be viewable by all my followers, as we can see in the To field. If you're familiar with Facebook, this is similar to posting something on your wall where all your Facebook friends would be able to see it. And, just like Facebook, you can also tag someone so they'll receive a notification about your post. Just type the @ and begin typing a person's name whose contact information is in the system. Type your message and click Share. If I navigate to a particular ISP, I can post a Chatter message there as well. Click on the Chatter tab. And from the ISP, my Chatter post will only be seen by someone who has access to this ISP, as we can see in the To field. This is a great place to collaborate with your individual's team. You can even add documents to your post by clicking the paperclip icon, selecting a file, and clicking Add. Then click Share.
All right, with that, I'm going to send it on back to Lisa.
Okay, thank you, Abby. Thanks for going through all those tutorials. I see some questions rolling in through the chat, so hopefully by the time the webinar is finished, we'll be able to answer all of those for you for sure. So let's talk about how the Ohio ISP is being developed, right? As we've mentioned earlier, right, the plan should always stay focused on the person and what their vision is for a good, meaningful life. So here you can see 4 cycles of core responsibilities for plan authors, for SSAs and QIDPs. Most of their work will revolve around these functions, again, which center on ongoing conversation, right? So in the middle of the circle is ongoing conversation, assessing, planning, monitoring, and revision. Teams need to begin to communicate and check in with a person to make sure that everybody's right on track. And that's why it's so important that continuous monitoring happen. And sort of gone are those days as far as those one-time annual kinds of events, that one-time annual planning meeting. We're really wanting teams to continue to have this ongoing conversation so that we can make real-time revisions to the plan to make sure that we're capturing what it is that the person wants to have going on in their life for a meaningful life. So we need to start with the assessment process, and we need to be curious, and we need to get to know the person. We need to connect with them and those that are closest to them. And all team members should have an opportunity to provide input, and that even includes DSPs. Remember that everybody sort of communicates in their own way, and the assessment does not need to be completed in one session. It shouldn't take place during some sort of formal meeting. Assessments should occur in sort of a natural, comfortable setting for the person over a period of time. And then there's the planning phase. And the planning phase is when the plan is written, obviously using person-centered language. The plan ensures that services are provided in the least restrictive setting possible. QIDPs and SSAs should ensure that the staff who are providing these services understand exactly what it is that's expected of them. And while writing a great person-centered plan can be challenging, ensuring that the plan is implemented is one of the biggest challenges. We should have fair and honest conversations about what's working and isn't working in ways that we all can do better. Find creative ways to communicate and share information. People do change their minds, and they find that some things are working and some things aren't after we get going, again, which is why it's so important about that monitoring and revising in real time so that the plan can be updated as quick as possible to reflect a person's life changes, not just, again, one time a year. Feedback and team input are used to make revisions to the plan, so it's important that providers share what it is that you know is going on or not going on with the person that you're supporting so that real rich information can get reflected in the planning process or the revisions if need be. When changes occur, we always encourage the QIDP and the SSA to go back to the assessment phase and see if any changes are needed during the assessment phase. So if something has changed, go back to the particular section where that has changed and then make your changes there. And then we want to talk about we talked about how the Ohio ISP is developed. Now we'll talk about how the Ohio ISP will sort of look. And so there's 3 sort of sections to the Ohio ISP. right? The assessment section, that's where it contains all that detailed, rich information about the person's wants and needs. Most DSPs don't need to necessarily review this portion. However, it would be useful if they decide to do so. They'll find that rich, detailed information. The ISP is a summary of the important information gathered during the assessment phase. It includes important 2s and 4s, skills and abilities, risks, services and supports, outcomes, and interwoven information related to any restrictive measures. So obviously, as everybody I'm sure knows on this webinar, that obviously rule does require that DSPs are trained on the plan before they begin working with the person. And I think thing that might be helpful to most for providers and DSPs is this introduction page. The introduction page is kind of a one-page summary of the most important things to know about a person. So if it was my first day of working with a person, I probably would leap to the introduction page, read about the most important things for that person and what I need to know about them, and then work my way back into the plan and the assessment. I'm going to turn it back over to Mandy, and she's going to review some frequently asked questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. So during the May webinar, we found some questions that were asked multiple times, and we thought we would share those today. One of them was whether annual plans and redeterminations will continue with the implementation of the Ohio ISP. And so annual plans and redeterminations will continue. But like Lisa said, the focus should really be changes happening in real time and as soon as it happens, rather than waiting for an annual meeting to occur. So if you discover a change that needs made, make sure you're reaching out to that SSA or that queue, letting them know so that they can get that change made and get that plan active to truly reflect the person's needs at that time. The next question is, if I am agreeing to and signing an Ohio ISP, when am I expected to give my consent? And so the process for reviewing an Ohio ISP may be different for different people, and it will be different as far as how it looks. We talked about if your county is using Salesforce or DODD's IT solution, you may do it electronically or in written form. If they're using a third-party vendor, it may look a little different depending on how they go. So make sure you're having that conversation. But we do want to point out that it really should be, if you're signing a plan, it should be the complete plan. So there really shouldn't ever be an instance in which a member of a team is signing a plan or an Ohio ISP that still needs changes made. We want you guys to be seeing those complete plans, seeing what you're responsible for, and then being able to provide your consent if that's what you choose. All right. And then the next question, what type of information from the plan will transfer to documentation sheets? And will the outcomes be included on the doc sheets? So right now, like I said, DODD's IT solution that's free and it's going to be for everyone that these doc sheets are created, will generate doc sheets based on the paid support and the provider that's authorized to provide those services. So the paid supports will automatically be generated on the doc sheet. As far as outcomes, they will have to be transferred manually at this time. We do have an enhancement to also include outcomes in that documentation that's generated, but we're not there yet. And so we do have a sample of documentation generated from the IT solution on our website. It's Lewis Decker, and it will show what the documentation does look like from the system. Okay. And then finally, I have gained access to Ohio ISP online system, but I don't see anything yet. And I saw this question in the chat. Someone said, I got logged in, but everything's blank and I serve multiple people. Why isn't there stuff here? And that's because, remember we said everyone's kind of at a different point. So some counties have started using it, some ICFs haven't or have, and others haven't. So have that conversation with the SSA or the Q to see when they might start using Ohio ISP to begin with, and then also when they might be putting the people you work with into Ohio ISP. So they have been very strategic in planning about how they're going to roll this out, you know, depending on the agency. And so just because they've started working with some people doesn't mean that the person that you're actually working with will be in Ohio ISP right away. Some county boards and ICFs are basing it off of span dates, start dates, and you know it's possible that it might be a little while before they get to the person. But as soon as the person that you serve, but as soon as they attach you as the provider providing a service in the Ohio ISP, and they complete that plan, you will be a member of the team and you'll be able to see the ISP in the system. And finally, we have many resources available on the Ohio ISP webpage. I want to shout out Rachel Roseman. She's the newest RSF with us with DODD. She's in Region 1, and she's been putting some of the resource links in the chat. So thank you very much for doing that, Rachel. We appreciate it. Oh, there she is. Hi. So DODD's Ohio ISP webpage, that's the very first link, dodd.ohio.gov/OhioISP. Definitely check it out. We have frequently asked questions on there. We have those example plans that I referenced. You can go to Lou Decker and see his sample documentation. We have a space that's specific to onboarding for waiver providers. So all the videos that Abby showed us today about how waiver providers can access the system and operating functionality of it, all those videos are available under that onboarding page of Ohio ISP for waiver providers. And we have the login guide and access. And then as always, feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to help. We have a general mailbox, ohioisp@dodd.ohio.gov, that we are constantly monitoring, and we're responding as quick as we can. We definitely appreciate hearing from you, and we want to answer your questions and be as supportive as we can in this process. So those are the resources. And then finally, we can take some questions. I know there were some in the chat I wasn't able to see because anytime I click outside of the video playing, it stops playing. So that I had to sit on my hands actually to keep from clicking because of the clicker. So hopefully Lisa or Abby, if you saw some questions, feel free to shout them out.
Abby's doing a great.
Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Abby's doing a great job of answering sort of specific questions that people are asking about their login. But I don't see any other questions other than questions about roles and logins in the chat currently.
Oh, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like people are, I see someone was getting in and yeah, great. And again, just reach out if you have a question of when the person you're working with or the people or the county or ICF is going to be in Ohio ISP, reach out to that county board, that SSA, Q or ICF, just to ask find out so you have an idea. But if you get your OHID account set up and you're at that dashboard and it's blank, you've done your part, you're just waiting to be connected on their end.
There's a question about the pause in the chat. Will the pause be only available to the DOO or delegated person? So, go ahead.
So yeah, the pause and the CPT, there's been no changes made to those. Yep, they will continue to be used as they are currently being used. So that will be where, and you know, there's a possibility in the future eventually that will change, but at this point in time, it will be as we currently use them. And Lisa, I see your question, huh? Something's not right. If you could expand, or maybe somebody was already working with you.
Yeah, I think Abby is.
It seems like she's got the Salesforce tile and not the OhioISP tile. And I don't know how that's possible because that's for internal use. So,
I don't know if, I don't know, maybe Abby, I don't know what kind of time you have, but if you guys want to stay on after and she could screen share pretty quickly, maybe we could take a look at that.
We can try, yeah.
Offline. But again, Abby, I don't know what your schedule looks like after this.
No, I'm free until 4:30. So.
Okay. Well, then why don't we have her, Lisa, stay on and we'll have you screen share. But a couple of other questions have come through also. Do we know how the provider support person will be logging into and to assist new providers? So I'm going to make an assumption here. Oh, I know. Hi, Natasha. You will need to get with your county board and see what sort of role you as a provider support person might be assigned to be able to see plans in the system. But that will be a decision that will be made at your local county board, not at the department level.
Awesome. And then Abby, I see a question about chatter, and I know the video showed it in that general bar, but do you want to talk about how we can access it via the ISP?
Yes. So originally we did have chatter at the top. So that video is slightly outdated. We did have it at the top, but there was a lot of confusion about it. What chatter can be seen by just team members, what chatter is viewable by everybody. And so there was a lot of concern about just, you know, keeping things safe and secure. And so we actually took it out of that menu. So there is no bulk chatter anymore. But if you create an ISP, one of the tabs inside the ISP will be chatter. And so you can actually put it there. So that's how you can access that chatter feature, which is kind of nice because it ties it just to that ISP. If you had all your chatter feeds all together, it would be a lot. So that way, you know, it's specific to that ISP.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for asking, Heather. All right. So Sunshine asked, our county includes the pause in the plan and assessment. Will the pause be included in the Ohio ISP? So there is not a spot for you to take the information specifically from the pause and put it into the Ohio ISP. There's not the way to do that, but you can attach the pause printout to the Ohio ISP. We have some sample plans on the website that are showing how a county is doing that. They're attaching it to the end. So you can continue to do that. It really is this getting at the scope of the service within the Ohio ISP. And then you can follow up with the money. And Heather, if you want to have, or I'm sorry, Sunshine, if you want to have further discussion about that, we'd be happy to discuss that further as well. Feel free to shoot us an email, and we can go over that further. And Karen had a good birthday. I'm glad to see that. Happy belated birthday. Right, Helen. Yeah, the CPT. You're correct. Yep. The CPT is based off the pause. So yep. Or vice versa. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions that I missed come through?
Haven't seen any yet. And I don't think anybody has their hand up.
Awesome. Well, like we said, this has been recorded, and so we will post it in addition to the other webinars we've held the last 2 weeks.